santo.
Yajnashishtasina santo.
Muchante sarva kilbishai.
Muchyante sarva kalpishahi.
Bunchate tva agam papa.
Bhunjate te agam papa.
Pachanti atma karana.
Ye pachanti karana.
Prabhuji, anyone wants to go read it? Okay.
Yagyashishtashin santo
Yajnashishtasina
Mujyante sarva kilvashe
Muchyante sarva kalpishahi.
Bhujyante te twangamma
Bunchate te agam papa.
Papa.
ye pachante atma karanat
Ye pachanti atma karana.
Yagnashishthashina santo
Yajnashishtasina santo.
Muchante sarva kilmishe
Muchyante sarva kalpishahi.
Bhujante te tvagam papa
Bhujante te agam papa.
Ye pachantatma karanat
Ye pachanti atma karana.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, then we'll read the word for word translation. Did anybody say something? Okay. Word for word translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yajnashishta, or food taken after performance of yajna.
Food taken after
performance of yajna.
Asinaha,
Asinaha.
eaters.
Eater.
Santa,
Santa
the devotees.
the devotees
Muchente,
Muchante
relief.
get relief from
Sarva,
Sarva
all kinds of.
all kinds of
Kilbisai,
Kilbisahi
from sins.
sins
Bunchate,
Bhunjate
enjoy.
enjoy
Te,
Te
de,
De
tu,
Tu
but,
But
agam,
Agam
grievous sins.
Grievous sin
Papai,
Papai
Papa.
oh sorry, my eyesight's papa, sinners.
sinners
Ye,
Ye
who,
Those
pachanti,
Pachanti
prepare food.
Prepare food
Atma karanat,
Atma Karanat
for sense enjoyment.
for sense enjoyment.
Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins
Are released from all kinds of sin
because they eat food
because they eat food
which is offered first for sacrifice.
which is offered first for sacrifice.
Others who prepared food for personal enjoyment
Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment
verily eat only sin.
verily eat only sin.
Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The devotees of the Supreme Lord or persons who are in Krishna consciousness are called santas. And they're always in love with the Lord, as is described in the Brahma Samhita 5.38. Prembanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hrideshu vilokayanti. The santas, being always in a compact of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the giver of all pleasures, or Mukunda, the giver of liberation, or Krishna, the all-attractive person, cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, such devotees always perform yajnas in different modes of devotional service, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, etc. And all these performances of yajnas keep them always aloof from all kinds of contamination of sinful association in the material world. Others who prepare food for self or sense gratification are not only thieves, but also the eaters of all kinds of sins. How can a person be happy if he's both a thief and sinful? It is not possible. Therefore, in order for people to become happy in all respects, they must be taught to perform the easy processes of Sankirtan Yagya in full Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, there can be no peace or happiness in this world. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jananjana Shalakya Chakshurin Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam
Vekshtam
Sthapitam
Papitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Kadati Swapadam
Kadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri
Shri Guru Shri
Padakamalam
Padakamal Shri
Guru
Guru Vaishnavam Scha Shri Guru Vaishnavam
Sagrajatam Sarvana
Prajatam Pranaragunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Pavadutam Parijanarpahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pradam Sahaganarvita Shri Vishakam Shamsya Hare Krishna
Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate
Patapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Mostate
Taptakanchana Gaurangi
Taptapanchatam Sangira De Vrindavaneshwari
Rishabhanu
Krishna
Sute Devi
Devi
Pranamami Hari Priya
Namami
Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you again, everybody, for coming, like joining in today. So this verse is like a continuation of like what Karma Yoga is. We've been reading from the last few verses. So in the verse before this, Sri Krishna says like, you have to perform yajna or sacrifice. And because the demigods, they're in a necessity of like in charge of different aspects on different matters of the universe. They being satisfied by the performance of yajna will supply all necessities to you. This was a previous verse. But who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods is certainly a thief. And this verse further, the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food, which is first offered for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. And then the purport actually, Srila Prabhupada makes three main points. He first talks about the santas, and the definition of the santas are people who are always in Krishna consciousness, and they are always in love with the Lord. And then the next point he makes is how the santas, what they do, like how they engage in devotional service. And then the third point he makes is about people who eat for sense gratification, and he describes them as thieves. And what happens to them? They eat all kinds of sins. So the first group of people is the santas, and it's described like how the definition of santas is given in the word in Brahma Samhita. It's like Prembandhana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadeva Hrideshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achinta Guna Swarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord, Govinda, who is always seen by devotees with eyes, whose eyes are anointed with pulp of love. He is seen as eternal form of Shyamasundara, situated in the heart of the devotee. Now, if you remember, I mean, if those who have read the Bhagavad Gita, we know, like in the, like in the Vishwarupa, like where like Krishna shows his universal form. What does he say? Like, he's most happy like when he's worshipped in his two-handed form as Shyamasundara. So that's what, like the pure devotees of the Lord, they see him in this two form as Shyamasundara, and they're always seeing him with love. So, and what does that love mean? And love means, like, as they're always performing, they're always doing they're always engaged in devotional service. And what are those? What is the devotional service? And Srila Prabhupada has listed some of them out here. It's like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam. And then if you look, in the Bhagavatam, like we have like Prahlad Maharaj, he describes the nine processes of devotional service, and Prahlad Maharaj, he lists them out very nicely. And we'll just go over them one by one. The first one is Shravanam. Shravanam is hearing. And we have like examples of different devotees, how we engaged in them and made it like the perfection of their devotional service. The first one is like Shravanam. We have the example of Parikshit Maharaj, who was in the last 7 days of his life, he constantly heard the Srimad Bhagavatam, or the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then the second one is like Kirtana, chanting, which was chanting is like chanting the Mahamantra, but in this case, his example is given of Sukhadev Goswami, who actually spoke the glories of the Supreme Lord to Parikshit Maharaj. The third one is remembering Vishnu Smaranam. Prahlad Maharaj himself, who was describing this 9 processes, but he's an example of, the perfection of Smaranam, who was always thinking of Vishnu, despite the tortures he was getting from Hiranyakashipu, his father. The next one is serving the Lord's Supreme lotus feet, or Pada Sevanam. And like, and the example they're given is of Lakshmi Devi. And but we might be wondering, how can we engage in Pada Sevanam? Like, and actually, Madhupati Prabhu once told me, like, any service done in this temple, actually you're serving, like, doing Pada Sevanam, like sweeping the floors of the temple, or doing some cleaning in the temple. Anything that you're doing, actually Pada Sevanam. That's what Madhu Prabhu. So that's an example of Pada. So we can all engage in Pada Sevanam. Deity worship, Archanam. We might not be like, you might all think like, deity worship is to be done by qualified brahmanas. No, it's not. We can have an altar in our own houses, and we can engage in devotional service. So we can offer our food to the Lord. We can offer a flower. We can offer, an agarbatti. We can anything we can offer. Like, so that's deity worship. And then praying, like you can glorify the Lord by singing, the Bhagavatam, and all the acharyas in our line. They've written beautiful prayers. I mean, you have the Vaishnava songbook. All these prayers are actually beautiful prayers. You can sing them in front of the deity. So an example given here is of Arkrura, who was always offering prayers to the Lord when he was traveling to Vrindavan to see Krishna. Then Dasyam. Dasyam is servitude, or here is described as executing orders. And Hanuman is given an example of that. The intimate servant of Ramachandra executed all of Sri Ramachandra's orders despite all kinds of difficulties. So other day somebody was asking a question, I think it was to Namananda Prabhu, like, I can't remember the question, but Namananda Prabhu, the answer I remember is that he said, like, we have to try our best to give, like, let's say like flowers, we don't have flowers at home, and flowers out there are expensive, or but even if it's expensive, if you love the Lord, we'll buy flowers and we'll give it to him. So because the Lord, so we go out of our way to do things for the Lord, even though it might seem very difficult. An example of Hanuman, he jumps across the oceans, he brings the whole mountain to get the Sanjeevani herb for Lakshmana. So we have this example of Hanuman, who is like the epitome of Dasyam. The third, like the eighth one, is Sakyam. An example given is of Arjuna. Arjuna was a friend of Krishna. And the reason Arjuna, the whole Bhagavad Gita was revealed to Arjuna was because he was very dear to Krishna. And in the 4th chapter, there's a verse, which I can't remember, like where Krishna is telling Arjuna, I'm giving this to you because you're so dear to me. Like, I don't know if for anybody after the class, if somebody remembers that word, it says, Priyo me, Soham Arjuna. And because of that, I'm revealing the whole Bhagavad Gita to you. And finally, like the final example is, Atma Nivedanam. And the example of that is Bali Maharaj, who surrenders everything to the Lord. And, he first offers his like entire kingdom, the heavens, the earth, everything he owned. And finally, when there was nothing, he offers his head. And we know the rest of the story where he is pushed to Patal. And because of his devotion, what does Vamanadev promise him? At one point, you'll become Indra. And, and even now, Vamanadev is guarding the palace of Bali Maharaj in Patal. So these are all the 9 processes of bhakti. So what happens because of this 9 processes of bhakti? When somebody is engaged in all these things, they have no time for anything else. And when they have no time and they're constantly thinking of Krishna. And what happens when you're constantly thinking of Krishna? You develop love for Krishna, and then you come to the point of being Santa. So Santas actually, the point of devotional service is what? To engage in loving devotional service. So initially you may not have that feeling of love, but you engage in it, so you end up doing loving devotional service. Somebody, like once I remember my Guru Maharaj telling me, somebody asked him, what's the point of all this chanting? So he said, so we can chant even more. So the whole point of chanting is so we chant even more. We end up we end up doing offenseless chanting. And that the chanting, that is the purpose of life, to end up chanting, which is chanting itself is devotional service. We just heard like Kirtana, glorifying the Supreme Lord. The chanting itself is, and then the final point he makes here is, in the purport is, others are thieves. So what happens if you do not offer, what he says, others who prepare food for self or sense gratification are only thieves, but also eaters of all kinds of sins. How can a person be happy if he's both a thief and sinful? It is not possible. Now, I just want to tell you a story. I heard it from Gauranga Prabhu. Maybe it's not directly connected to the verse, but it still makes a lot of sense. This was after the battle of, it was on the final day of the battle of Mahabharata. What happens is on the 17th day night, all the Pandavas, along with Draupadi and Krishna, they want to go and see Bhishma Pitama, who's actually lying on his bed of arrows. His spears from all sides, and he's lying on his bed of arrows. And he's but he has got this, he was actually shot by Shikhandi, who in his previous life had that's a whole different story. So Shikhandi was Amba, and that's a whole story. But he also had he also had a boon where he could actually leave his body when he wanted. So he wanted to see the Pandavas being coronated before he left his body. So just before the final day of the battle, on the 17th night, they all went there, all the Pandavas, including with Krishna and Draupadi. So Krishna requests Bhishma Pitama to ask him, to describe dharma, like how to how to rule the kingdom in a very dharmic way. And when that happens, Draupadi, she bursts out laughing. She finds it like very weird and funny. She bursts out laughing. So everybody asks her, like, why are you being so disrespectful to your grandfather, to our grandfather? Why are you laughing like this? And even Bhishma is like kind of surprised. Why are you laughing like this? Then Draupadi says, how can you teach dharma when when I was in the court of the Kauravas and I was being disrobed, you were just sitting there silently, and what kind of dharma was that? So how can you teach us dharma? So at that time, what Bhishma says, yes, you're right, your question is very valid. But then at that time I could not speak because I was eating the food given by Duryodhana. And because of the food which was full of sins, I could not open my mouth. But now these arrows have pierced me from all sides, and all that sin, the sinful blood which was inside me is kind of gone. So now I can talk of dharma. So the example, the thing here, example given is here. You can understand how important, the food is, like, which is kind of connects to this verse. How food, like when we take food from somebody who's very sinful, all those sinful qualities, like, they come into our mind. So that's why it's very important, like, food should be cooked in a very sattvic way. All kinds of the thing which makes humans different from animals is all humans and animals, basically they indulge in all the same thing. What is that? Eating, mating, defending, all the four things. The thing is, like, humans have a sense, like they have a higher intellect, and with that intellect they can actually use that intellect to have the higher purpose in life. So and what is the higher purpose in life? I mean, a lot of people, what we are doing at the moment is like, we are trying to make our lives better. Like some people, they work hard so they can have a bigger house. Some other people, they indulge in yagyas and other kinds of things. So they have a better life and the better next life. Others, they do more charity. And the intention there is, again, to get they probably go to some higher planet. And Srila Prabhupada describes this kind of activities as what? What you're in right now, you're in a C-class prison, and then all you're trying is to get into a B-class or an A-class prison. At the end of the day, you're still in prison. So the actual purpose is get out of this prison. So that's what life should be used. And as such, everything we have around us is given by supreme law. When we are born here, we have nothing, we have nothing. And everything all the resources around us actually belong to the Supreme Lord. And when we use them, we are actually stealing them. We're just using it without his permission. The only way we can sanctify this usage is what do? We use it in his service. And when it is used in his service, then there is no sin, because you're not using it for us, or we're using it for him. So we might be doing the same work we might be doing, but the result of that work is being offered back to him. We might be cooking, we might be cooking now and eating, but what we are doing before we eat, we offer it to the Lord, and whatever remnants are there, he's so merciful, like he eats with his glances and eats with his eyes, and he leaves everything for us. All the remnants are there exactly. And it becomes, prasadam becomes more tastier. Like, remember when Mataji was saying, I remember she was saying, she offered an orange to Krishna, and next day she gave it to one of her students, and the student said the orange was very tasty. So, and it's our own experience, prasadam in the temple, when it's prepared, and we eat Mahaprasadam, it's so tasty. So that's like that's the thing we need to do, like that way that we incur no sin. Otherwise, we're just stealing what Krishna is giving us, and we just thieves. Now there is like anything like chapter 9, verse 26. Krishna says, "What is that? Patram pushpam phalam toyam yume bhaktya prayachati." I accept anything that's given to me with love. Leaf, not anything actually. Leaf, water, leaf or water. Patram pushpam, flower, toyam or water. So we kind of know like what actually needs to be offered to Krishna. And Krishna says again, like, the kind of food, like chapter 17, verse, he kind of describes the food which are sattvic. Those are the ones we can offer to Krishna. And we cannot offer like anything that causes pain or agony or distress or anything. So we cannot offer like animals. We cannot offer meat because it causes pain. And there's distress and there is misery, when you offer. Some people may come up, okay, we'll just offer meat to Krishna and as a sacrifice and we'll eat it. But yesterday, like, Amritananda Prabhu was explaining like why, how meat, if you want to eat meat, what you have to do. But that's again for people who are in mode of passion or mode of ignorance. But if you want to really get to the higher point, what you need to do is like you need to eat food which is sattvic, and sattvic does not include meat. And Krishna is so gracious. I know he has spec. If you give, like we have examples of like when this one actually like this verse I just described, like patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. This exact verse is there also in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I believe it's in the 10th canto. There is a story of like Kuchela, also known as Sudama, who is his childhood friend who goes to visit Krishna. So what happens, like he goes to offer Krishna, he goes to visit Krishna. He remembers like in childhood, Krishna loved to eat rice flakes or poha, loved to eat poha. So he packs some poha in a cloth and then he goes to the palace of Krishna. But when he goes to the palace of Krishna, he sees this opulence of Krishna, and then he looks at his little, among some handful of poha which is tied in a, he's like a rag. He kind of calls it, and then he kind of he feels ashamed to offer it to Krishna. But Krishna reads his mind. He sees he had actually packed it with so much of love for him. He goes and he finds it where he's hiding it, because Sudama actually hides it because he thinks like it's not. Good enough to be offered to Krishna. So Krishna actually finds it, he snatches it and eats it, and he also shares with his wife Rukmini, with his hand. So you can see how Krishna is like, and when he eats that, when that happens back there where Sudama's wife and children, they're all like, they get those huge palaces, and so when Krishna is satisfied, everything becomes all right. Another example is like of Vidura. So what happens is, again, like Krishna is going for this negotiation before the Battle of Mahabharata. And then Duryodhan, he offers Krishna to his palace to, as a guest. But like we talked before, Duryodhan's, like everything was only sin. So Krishna refuses to stay there. Instead, he goes and stays with Vidura. And what happens there? Vidura's wife is actually related to Krishna because her name is Sulabha. She's a relative of Krishna from her mother's side, like Devaki. So Sulabha actually gives him bananas, but instead of offering him, she peels the bananas, and instead of giving him the banana, actual banana, she gives him the peels. And Krishna, because it's been offered with so much love, he just eats the peels, and all the bananas are actually lying on the ground. So you can see how Krishna is so gracious when we offer him something with love, how he accepts it. So same thing we have to do, like now we might be going into the, this is actually what Srila Prabhupada says. We might be going into the market. we might be buying vegetables and all thinking how tasty it is. I'll enjoy eating that vegetables or fruit. We just have to change our mentality. We have to think like, now this fruit is very tasty. I'll offer it to Krishna. He'll like it. That's what we have to think. You know, we have to do what we are doing, except that we have to change our mentality. Now, another thing Srila Prabhupada says, like, Arjun was a warrior before he heard the Bhagavad Gita. He was also a warrior after he heard the Bhagavad Gita. But what happened? What was the change? The only change was after he heard the Bhagavad Gita, he became a devotee and he started doing things for Krishna. Before, he was thinking of his, how people would glorify him. He was thinking of how he could protect his family. He was thinking of how he could take care of the world. But later on, what happened? After he heard the Bhagavad Gita, he was thinking of how he could, carry out Krishna's orders, how he could serve Krishna. Same thing. Whatever we do, we have to think of like how we can serve Krishna, and whatever is actually remain, and whatever remnants we get, or whatever is, we have to thank. We have to, we have to like honor it with gratitude. We have to keep Krishna in the center. We have to, and whatever prasad we get, we have to be respect, say thank you to Krishna and honor it with gratitude. That's this verse here, and anybody I'll finish it here, and anybody can just any comments, or somebody can please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandar Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Very wonderful discourse. Again, I'm also a strong believer. I mean, of course, I just can say that I try to follow as much. So, my question to you is, I mean, there have been times and situations, again, not in last 5, 8, 10 months, but when, you are in a situation when you're not at home and you're traveling, or, you're not. So what is the right vidhi, in terms of offering to Krishna when you are traveling, or, you get to want to eat something, and, you're not, unfortunately, you're not carrying, or what you're carrying is finished. So what to do in situation like, I mean, get some sattvic foods like fruit or something, and just take that.
Yes, Prabhu, that would be the answer. You can offer it, and you buy sattvic food, you can offer it in your mind. And actually, honestly speaking, like many times, like, when you're work and all, you have to like, at times you have to go out for like, lunches and all that with your colleagues and all that, right? Even
Right.
Then we try to stick to like sattvic food, which is like uncooked, salads and things like that. Try our best, Prabhu. And you can offer in your mind. I mean, this has been asked. I'm sure, like the senior devotees, like Amritananda Prabhu and all, they can throw more light on this. But my answer would be like, try your best to stick to like uncooked foods or whatever, and then you can offer it in your mind. So because like food cooked by other people, non-devotees especially, they, whatever thoughts are there in their mind, they kind of come into the food, and then they influence your thoughts. Like I was giving an example of Bhishma Pitama, right?
Correct.
So, like,
I mean, it's true. I have experienced that, and I'm a strong believer. If you're not offering and eat something which is not offered, you're eating sin, and it impacts you. It influences your senses by all means, and it's
yes,
just that.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much. You eat a few days like restaurant food or something, then you'll forget everything about it. You won't even feel like coming to the temple anymore.
Very true. Very true. I mean, like I said, last 8, 10 months since COVID, never had that experience. But there was time actually back in days, and when just was thinking like how to implement, and there could be a situation in the future also, I'm sure. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
No. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for a wonderful class.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Anybody else has anything to add? Any other reflections, questions, comments, realizations? Anything to add? Please go ahead, unmute.
I just want to add something, Prabhu. Like, I mean, very often, like, even we are all guilty of that. Like, for example, like children and all, they go out, they want to buy stuff from outside, they want to eat food from outside, and I'm also guilty of that. And like, we indulge them, like buying pizza from outside and things like that. And as far as I think that should be discouraged, but we have to give them proper knowledge, or we have to try to. But it is a struggle.
You were mentioning about this logo. It is 4.3. Bhaktosame Sagachedi. Is that the one?
It says like, I'm giving you the secret of Bhagavad Gita because you're very dear to me.
Yeah, that's 4.3. Sa evayam mayatedya yoga prokta puradanaha bhaktosemi sagachedi rahasyam hi etaduttamam.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, so because she was his dear friend, and we have this example of the word where Sakyam is, and because of that, this knowledge was given to Arjuna, and of course, to all of us through that.
The Lord is saying that, this is revealing today because of you are my dear friend and a devotee. Therefore, you can understand this transcendental mystery of this science. So that's a 4.3.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Amritananda Prabhu, other day, actually having a conversation with Amritananda Prabhu, and we're discussing about yagya, and it was a very interesting point Amritananda Prabhu made was Prabhuji, you want to go ahead and just say that? Amritananda Prabhu.
If you could refresh my memory as to what particular point we discussed so many things, Prabhu, almost 1 hour we were chatting.
No, you talked about yagya, you asked, you're saying in countries like China and all, they don't perform yagya, that how are they getting rains and how are they people?
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah, I think it was Hema Jagannath Prabhu's class. And then Madhupati Prabhu, I spoke with him, and then he gave his realizations on how, I think you brought out the point that though China is atheistic, there are still some sects of believers, whatever they may be, Buddhists or something, whatever.
yeah,
There is still some level of, so perhaps with their thing. And the point was, rains will come any which way. And Krishna also did that in the Govardhan pastime, lifting of Giriraj. He mentioned that to Nanda Baba, it rains in the seas anyway. So why are you doing? We should actually worship Giriraj. He provides everything. And of course, Indra got angry and all that other pastime, which we know. So the universal management is actually happening anyway. So whether you do your devotional service or you don't do your yajna, and that we need to keep in mind. These demigods are in charge of those departments. And Kaliyug, it is Sankirtan Yajna, is what is recommended, what Acharyas say, what Srila Prabhupada has said. And in fact, even the process of offering bhoga that we do is also a type of sacrifice. What are we actually sacrificing? We are sacrificing our desire to eat and taste. Krishna Naman Prabhu, he gave that verse, Vacho Vegam, controlling of the tongue, just as out of the 9 devotional processes, Shravanam Kirtanam is the prime. Others are the support functions. Similarly, the controlling the tongue to speak and to taste. If you control that, you control your mind, you control the belly, you control the genitals. So that is the focus we should have. And Patram Pushpam, like what you said, Prabhu, is the process of doing that. And even as Prabhu asked the question, and he said that we have, as Grastis, either at work, you go for a Christmas party, or, Diwali celebration, or children, they don't want to be the odd man out in school. There's so much of pure pleasure to eat even pizza. It may be just vegetarian, but it will definitely have onion and garlic, plus anna, wheat. So some adjustments have to be made. And finally, after they develop a higher taste. Initially, when they're small, they'll just eat whatever is offered to them. But as they grow older, that's when the philosophical basis of the prasad process, the bhoga process, and engaging them, I think also, then they become a little more, they're able to say no. And if someone wants pizza, you can make it at home. Prabhu was saying, Puneet, when he travels, you can take food like thepla. Even pizza lasts for a day or two if you put it in that aluminum foil. That can be, and worst comes to worst case, Srila Prabhupada even instructed his disciples in Russia, where they couldn't even get fruits and vegetables and salads and things like that. They were doing book distribution under severe conditions, and the only thing was meat. And he says, okay, and except don't eat beef, of course, because cow is mother, cow is Krishna's favorite. So according to time, place, circumstances, as long as our consciousness is getting elevated. So you described it very well, today's verse of the eating sin. There are vegetarians, there are Jains who don't eat onion garlic. They will have some bodily benefit, but the consciousness is still as degraded as someone who's, the consciousness only gets elevated through the process of bhoga. You are what you eat, whether you offer it or you don't offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
And I was trying to also make a point, and also for the beginners and the neophytes, like people who, and I can speak for myself also, started, going to ISKCON. Mainly prasadam was a temptation. And I mean, that's the key. It starts with darshan, prasadam, and then associating with devotees and slowly getting in the process. So definitely it has a very key role and important where we maintain it through our process of bhakti. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. More minutes. There is nothing else. Anybody else has anything?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. I was just thinking so many things in my mind to what to share because I have so many, things to share at this point, and the time is very less. So my reflections, and I was practicing yoga. I went to Rishikesh, and there I went there to stay in ashram. And at night they have that kind of a ceremony where they had a langar in the temples, and they make fresh food. And I saw there's a bunch of rishis came at night, and there were 6-7 of them. And I remember very clearly it was the evening, and I was strolling in the balcony, and I was very curious to see what's happening in the temple. I went inside and saw in the basement they were serving langar. and they were all eating. And I came upstairs and I saw this bunch of rishis came, and they stood in front of me. And then I said, "You would like to have langar? It's going on." And they started laughing, and they said, they will never allow us to go downstairs because we are not supposed to go downstairs to sit and eat langar with them. So they sat outside and they under the sky, and they and someone came with the food, and I said, should I serve them? And they said that I started serving, and they said, we don't want it. I said, what happened? They said, what they have given you to serve is not fresh. It's like the old stale food from yesterday or maybe in the morning. We want the fresh food. I went downstairs asking them, is this the concern? And I wanted to know what's going on. It was a, big kind of a arguments going back and forth. And they said, if you want to live in this ashram, you have to, they threatened me to, to step away because it's our rules and regulation. Let us do what we wanted to do. And I still remember the face of that rishi, that, jata, and it's looked very, serious and looking at me, what I'm going to do. So I really apologized and said pranam to all of them. And I felt very helpless. What to do at this time. And I realized that myself when I've been practicing and serving, in my heart, when you have no choice to, you know, offer, sometimes you don't have time or do things. In my heart, I always say a prayer, in my heart, like, Krishna, I offer to you what I'm eating right now, but I am not there to, offer you at this time. Even if I'm making something which I can't offer because it has something inside which I can't offer, but like garlic and, whatever flavors I've been cooking, I still offer to you in my heart. And I was listening and I was thinking what the reflections are coming from everyone. And I was thinking like that when I was, because I ate taco and, I made that roll and wraps today. And I was thinking in my heart, like, oh, I had this and I didn't offer, but I couldn't. At the same time, I had said a prayer in my heart. And immediately the Prabhu gave the example of orange that I shared on that day. And immediately it just nullified from my heart to don't be in guilt. At the same time, the bhava, I think, is most the sweetest thing in the heart, with Krishna always, witnessing. Even if we have that feeling and some like light in my heart, just kind of a thing, like it's just relieved. It's okay. But there should be a conscious effort that's always there. But there are some days and times when you are really helpless. But it's always good to anchor, but not giving that's most important. But when you have other days, you still say it aloud in your heart, like, I'm doing this, I don't have time, but this is what is happening. I'm helpless. Maybe I cannot, control others to eat this and that, but I want to glorify you wherever I am, in any condition I am, whatever I am, and, serving anybody. So that was like, there's so many experiences, but there are few.
Yeah.
Yes, Mataji, we got to try our best, to offer, like, whenever we can. We try our best. Like, Simeshwar Prabhu, you want to say something on that? Like,
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's the right. I remember one soloist mentioned that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, when Maharaj was very young, like maybe 4 years or 5 years, of course, in such a Vaishnava family, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, 11 children. Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj was the youngest, very devotional, practicing devotion even at the small age. And Maharaj accidentally ate one mango and realized later that which is not offered to the Lord. entire life, Maharaj took a shapat, a vow. Entire life, Maharaj didn't eat the mango. That was the determination and the understanding and dedication for the devotion for the Lord. Yes, it's possible in all respect. I mean, Puneet Prabhu was mentioning about what happens when we go traveling. Yes, we can. I mean, Vedanta Prabhu also mentioned that, yes, we can have so many other things, like we can have pizza, we can have some bread, we can make some, and we can make it at least for a day. It can remains. It can be, without any damage. So nighttime, wherever you are, I mean, wherever I travel, I take a pressure cooker or rice cooker. Just easy. Just make it, offer to the Lord, have it. Maybe, should control. I mean, it's really, really makes the difference in our all practices. Uh, it helps a lot in our consciousness. The main thing is actually food which we eat. It's purify our intelligence, it's purify our consciousness, especially the prasad. So that's very clear. And if we keep doing that, then it's really, really, it will purify our consciousness. And we can see that in ISKCON, so many devotees, they became devotees because of prasad. Very clear, very clear. So if, I mean, yes, I mean, yes, there are some unavoidable situations, or, I mean, then there is, always there is time, place, and circumstances. But if we are with Krishna, even if we eat, we forced to eat or something like that. And if you're with Krishna, then everything will turn. Even see, nothing is, there is, everything is Krishna's mercy, everything Krishna knows. Krishna is Bhava Grahi Janardana. He doesn't look at that, what quantity or what we are, but what he is actually looking, what is our heart, what is in our heart. There may be situations we have to face the people outside, maybe restaurant, maybe friends, the colleagues. But what is in our heart? Many times I had to go to this, year-end party or something like that with, because of manager and managing director, they insist because of that's their, to show up, right? It just show up. The body is what is within our heart. Seeing everybody like a good people, they are the part and parcel of the Lord. Yes, they may be taking, but it because of their ignorance. So always Krishna is in the heart. So you are not separate from it actually. If Krishna is in the heart, then everything is pure. Nothing is impure when Krishna is in the heart. So, that's what it is. Sometimes you may have to go to your relatives' homes, sometimes, many times. Uh, and especially, every devotee of Krishna is playing a role in the Leela of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's known as Gaura Leela, and it's a mercy of the Lord. And we also have our responsibility to preach this Krishna consciousness to others. So when we go to a relative's house, and we are kind of so much adamant, and so much of, we always, okay, I don't eat this, I don't this, I don't this, I don't eat this. They will kind of fed up, or they will kind of, what kind of person this is, this. I mean, first of all, we all need to be first, stand on the platform of a human. We see everybody else is a human. Everybody else is the part and parcel of the Lord. So we, as much as possible, we should not uh, deject or reject or give pain or some kind of with the words. And violence is not just because if we take a weapon and do the killing, that is not only the violence. Violence is generally defined as even with our tongue, it's a violence. When with our attitude, it's a violence. This all is a violence. It's in the category of papa. This all happens there. So it's very, very important. that we should be according to the time, place, and circumstance. The most important is if Krishna is in our heart in every aspect. So whenever sometimes we have to meet some kind of situations, that time bring Krishna in our heart. Then things are much better. Then even then you don't feel away. You will not feel that guilt feeling. You will not have. The moment you remember Krishna, when such circumstances comes, yes, we are all human. It can come. But when you keep that Krishna in our consciousness, Krishna in our heart, that point of time, oh Krishna, I'm with you. I'm not with anybody, but physically I'm with everybody, but mentally and internally I'm with you. So where is the problem? It's anyway, our body is completely impure. Gross body is not pure anyway, it's impure. So, but the moment we bring the Krishna, then everything becomes pure. How our body becomes pure? When Krishna is in our heart. Otherwise, it's completely impure all the time. Our minds, our intelligence, everything is impure. When Krishna is there, it's pure. That's the difference between material and spiritual. Krishna is there, everything is pure. Otherwise, this whole world we can see is a complete impurity, even everything. But the moment we think Krishna, everything is pure. So that's just a summary of it that we can discuss many things a lot. It is time, place, circumstances, but in all circumstances, Krishna is in the center. Krishna is in our heart. No worries.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So just one little thing, Prabhu, if I may. Do you have time for a minute?
Yes.
So as we discussed, Krishna and Krishna Prasad are no different. So there is no difference between Krishna and Krishna Prasad. So if we plan ahead, now that His Divine Grace Prabhupada has created so many temples around the world, wherever you go, you will find a ISKCON temple or a group. So when we had, this Madan Prabhu, who came from Hyderabad for a 1 month assignment, every meal he had in this new place, he got prasad. And we had so many devotees who have benefited by just calling out to the temple or the local Bhakti Vriksha. Whenever you make a trip to North New York City or upstate New York or Canada, there are ISKCON temples in every major town, and you just call them, they will keep everything ready for you. So a little bit of planning goes a long way in getting attached to the prasad. And wherever you make a step towards Krishna prasad, Krishna will make 10 steps to make it work. And that we have experienced that from many devotees. And now that Prabhupada has internationalized Krishna prasad all around the world, everywhere you go, you will find something. Some ISKCON temples, some Namahatta, some Bhakti Vriksha, who are willing to help. And I have personally experienced it. Any place you go, you will find something. Canada, Niagara Falls, anywhere there will be something or other. So we have a luxury now, and Krishna takes 10 steps to get us the Krishna Prasad. And if we take a vow that we will not eat anything outside, then that is very much possible in this age. That's all, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that's very true, very true. I remember when I got a project in Texas, I went there and I don't eat anything outside or anything like that. But no, just fruits or something like that, some vegetables or here and there. And one of the person saw this. He was actually the owner of that motel. So he saw, then he just I mean, he saw me and he had just asked me, where are you from and all those things. That day onwards, he started to cook for me. He's from a Gujarati family. Nice, wonderful, very devotional, very, God-fearing, very devotional. They started to cook for me every day. And I still remember, still contact them. So this is, yes, and Lord will make the arrangement, definitely, for if you have that determination. Yeah, wonderful.
Yes, Prabhu. On that note, just 1 minute, I just want to add, I was in Winston-Salem, my son was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and I didn't know anybody there. But I can't believe the way the devotees turned up. And people we don't even know, from Hillsborough Temple.
Yeah.
They're like, we're getting so much prasadam, we didn't have to, we were giving it to other people because we couldn't finish it, other people in the hospital, like 2 weeks. It was, I couldn't imagine, Krishna will somehow, he'll make arrangements, I feel.
Yep. Definitely. Yeah, wonderful discussion. Yes, we have that faith, and what we have to do our part. Krishna will take the 100 steps if we take one step. So Krishna will definitely do his part. That's a lesson for today. If we have to take our steps. So thank you so much, dear devotees. Wonderful, wonderful association. Please join every day. And this is, there is no words to express the glory of this association of devotees and the spiritual topics, and which purifies our heart, this purifies everything, and this gives lots of transcendental bliss. So wonderful. Please join every day as much as possible. I always says that even if there is a little bit opportunity, don't miss that. Because if it is the mercy, real mercy of Lord. Otherwise, it won't come to us. So please join every day, and wonderful opportunities. Don't miss out. And thank you, all your dear devotees and your wonderful devotees. And that's what is the most valued, all your, your devotees. I think that we always say that, Vancha kalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnava Ki Jai. So these are all your Vaishnavas, wonderful Vaishnavas. You all like to pay our obeisance to Swancha Kalpatarubhasya. That means fulfilling, desire trees, all these Vaishnavas. They can fulfill all your desires. That's the Vaishnavas. Thank you so much for joining. Let's conclude. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Subala Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thanks, Subala Prabhu.
Very good.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you.